All right, let's pick up then on our earlier conversation. Of course, just a short while ago, President Cyril Ramaphosa was addressing the UN General Assembly. We now bring in Africa and international relations analyst Dr. Charles Sinkala to speak to us about the developments at the United Nations General Assembly. A very good afternoon to you, Dr. Sinkala. Always a pleasure to see you, sir.
Good afternoon, and good afternoon to your viewers. Thank you for having me.
Well, let's talk about, firstly, the importance of this particular gathering. One obviously hopes that, it's not just a talk shop. I mean, the President, Cyril Ramaphosa, spoke about the UN discussing reparations for slavery. How do you think, this will be addressed, if at all?
Yes, so first of all, we must understand that the UNGA is actually the policy maker body of the 6 organs of the United Nations. So whatever which is discussed on the speeches from this General Assembly are now related or translated into policy. Just only those processes that makes things difficult, that are they going to be translated in policy and law, and at the end of the day implemented. We have seen that the United Nations has been celebrated the 75th anniversary, and many aspects of governance and democracy has been discussed. Over 7,000 speeches has been addressed in that assembly, ranging from poverty, security and peace, and as well as now the mushrooming of the pandemic, which has taken over most of the discussions which has been discussed, as well as the reparation, the call for reparations to be accelerated by President Cyril Ramaphosa of South Africa has brought in another discussion that has to be looked at.
Yeah, I want to talk about, the common goal that countries are likely to action going forward. And it does seem that there is some sort of separation between Africa and, the rest of the world. I mean, the president spoke about multilateral solidarity between member states. And it's been important in terms of distributing vaccines, for example. But, we wonder if it will continue when it comes to other situations going forward.
Yes, indeed, President Ramaphosa has been consistently, requesting that the developed world, the United States of America, Europe, and the other lucrative countries, they must not look at the poor countries as the way they are doing. They must come to assist, and as well as, if at all means to suspend the IPs so that vaccines can be produced at a larger scale within the continent. He has talked about it again at the General Assembly. But again, what we are facing in the General Assembly is something that is different. I mean, there's some cold wars within the United States of America, China, Russia, and as well as the other superpowers who are fighting for a stake in the economic sector of society. So most of those areas are derailing unity of the all countries, member states, 190 member states to work together. We can see how the virtue speech, which was recorded by Iranian president, how he was very aggressively attacking the United States of America of not going towards one common goal. So one common agenda would be a very important aspect in the fight against any poverty or climate change, or maybe it might be the COVID pandemic and future aspects. But if we do not work together as people in the world, these all efforts will be meaningless.
Yeah. I considered this a little bit of a swipe at the UN. Perhaps you didn't. But when the president was talking about the fact that, he's reiterating the call for representation of the African continent in the UN systems, one wonders, did you read it as such? Was that, just a plain call in terms of the UN involving the African continent more, which would then, seek the question of whether or not has that indeed then been lacking?
Yes, indeed it has been lacking for many years. You must remember that Africa does not have a permanent seat on the Security Council. Many presidents have spoken before in that assembly, especially the one I can think of, the former president of Zimbabwe, Mugabe, who said we need a permanent representation and be considered as part of the United Nations. Africa is represented by 5 countries out of 190 countries, member states of the United Nations, and plays a very significant role in terms of policy and the governance. And, this, I think, goes to the deaf ear, in the United Nations, that Africa is excluded from participating in terms of policy. So all what we say ends up on the policy and the platform in terms of speeches, and these are not implemented. And, they meet once in a while. Something came to my thought that African leaders as well, they must create even a WhatsApp chat, a group that, they can discuss the affairs of what is happening in the country, their member states within the countries, and as well how they are reviewed from the United Nations perspective. We see that in this COVID pandemic has actually made things worse and illustrated the situation that even within Africa we are divided as we are trying to be accommodated in the United Nations as permanent. We see in South Africa we are on level 2. In Zambia there is no lockdown. In Botswana there's lockdown up to 8 o'clock. So we need to have this one agenda and common goal, and the call for 2020, the 2030 agenda to end the climate change and the poverty is actually moving forward. We're not catching those statistics due to disunity and lacking of one common goal.
All right, Dr. Sinkala, thank you very much for your input. Much appreciated here on SABC News.